The Weekly Warp Pipe.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Weekly Warp Pipe, a podcast dedicated to retro video games, 80s and 90s toys, all things nostalgia. We're going to be jumping in the Warp Pipe, going back. We're actually taking a look at about selling your collection. Maybe you had a big collection and you sold a bunch of games to maybe get the next generation games. You had Nintendo games. You wanted a Super Nintendo, so you sold some. We got a bunch of comments from you guys, so we can't wait to dive into that. But Jay is with me. He kind of brought up this topic here.
What's up, guys? So, I've made the decision to sell the majority of my collection. Now,
I wish I had one of those buttons. Bam, bam,
bah, bah, bah. I should have told everyone to have a seat first, because I know there's gonna be people like, "What? What is he doing that for?" There's so many reasons why I'm doing it that hopefully it'll take the whole podcast to explain. Um, but obviously money is a reason. So my wife and I got a new air conditioner this year, and so we're kind of still working on paying that off. So part of me thought about, like, that would be helpful to help my family pay for that.
It's like a central air conditioning unit.
Yeah, like a central air unit.
Not
Yeah.
like one you put in the window. That's like
No, not a window unit. Yeah, God. I mean, I hope they would be able to cover that. But so just that, and then surprisingly, I have turned into a car guy overnight. I would have never been the kind of person that would want to, like, do car mods or stuff, but, like, I think what the catalyst was, I had a buddy get a Tacoma.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a really nice one. It's a TRD Pro, and then, like, it just kind of made me want to, like, update mine some. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna do some mods to that, but there's like that's not the only reason either. There's, like, so many reasons, but
You say that brings up a good topic of, like, it almost reflects around, like, who you're hanging out with now at the time. Like, okay, maybe you had a bunch of people that were into video games that gets you excited to collect, to play more retro games, and now maybe you're not spending a lot of time with those people. Andy's busy making YouTube videos and having you mow his lawn, and
yeah.
so now you're hanging out with this friend with cars, and you're like, hey, I'm kind of interested, like, in this world. So how can I dive into that?
I mean, and that's kind of part of it. But no, I mean, I see Andy enough. I think the other, I mean, like I said, there's so many reasons. I think one of the other things is I just kind of, like, walk in here and, like, they have this whole space dedicated to retro games, and don't get me wrong, I still love Nintendo, and I still have so much fun playing these games, and they're definitely gonna keep a handful. Like, I know for a fact I'll keep Contra, uh, Castlevania. And the problem I'm having is, do I keep one or do I keep both? Like, do I keep Contra and Super C, or do I just pick one or the other? Do I keep Castlevania, or do I
Mhm.
keep Castlevania, Simon's Quest, and Dracula's Curse?
Right. Yeah. Do you want to break up the trilogies? I mean, it comes down to, like, how much space you want to free up in your game room too, I guess, or
Yeah,
how much money you need to get said item. Like, okay,
right.
you have to sell these games because I'll get more. Maybe I could sell them as a bundle or whatever.
Yeah. And I actually made my first sell the other day, Russ. And
Oh, okay.
I don't know if I've told you what I sold, but can you guess?
Well, it's not the sign
It's
behind you.
not the sign. It's still there. The sign's still there.
I hope it's not the Sharp TV.
It was the Sharp TV.
What? I
The
probably would have
Sharp
bought that off you.
the Sharp TV is gone.
Wow.
I
Wouldn't even think you would sell that. It's like a
well,
grail item.
I mean, that's just it. It was worth a decent amount of money, and I sold it, and the guy was very happy to get it. I got a good price for it, and I'll be honest with you, I thought it was gonna hurt a lot more to get rid of it.
Mhm.
I've been fine without it, and I think that was part of the reason. It's so hard for me to, like, know my own, like, gather my own thoughts, because, like, there's a
Okay.
thousand reasons why. But part of it is I just wanted to prove to myself that I didn't need this stuff to be happy. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because you start collecting, and then, but after a while, it kind of almost, like, turns into something else sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm gonna have a really hard time explaining this, so just bear with me. But
I'll do my best to try to chime in and
yeah, yeah, chime in whenever. Absolutely.
well, I know it could almost be like any type of addiction where you're like, okay, I got these NES games and I need to get more. If I go to a convention, I need to buy a couple more games. Like, oh, I got Castlevania 1. I need to buy 2 and 3 because I gotta have the trilogy. And it's like,
Right.
do you really need it though? Like, you can play
Well,
games on the Switch too, on the
well,
NES collection or whatever.
yeah, and what I am gonna do is I'm gonna keep all 4 of my mini systems. I have the Super Nintendo, the NES, the TurboGrafx, and the Sega.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna have all those. So that's gonna save a ton of space. Oh man, I just had a point I wanted to make, but as soon as it came, it left. What were you saying? Maybe you'll jog my memory.
Well, I was just talking about addiction of like, you're going through and having the
Oh,
need and the urge to keep buying.
that actually did make me remember. Thank you. So, I think part of it back in the day was watching Michael be the Game Genie, and he was going for like a complete NES collection, and like Pat NES Punk had one,
Mhm,
and I was like, oh man, that'd be so rad to have like every single one, almost like a library. I remember there was a video that James Rolfe and Mike Matei did, and it may have been their James and Mike Mondays where they played a game, and I think they might have been playing Super Castlevania 4, and it was
mhm.
and part of Super Castlevania 4. They're in the library, and I think they were if I'm remembering correctly, or either I made the association in
Fabricating
my
it.
brain and fabricating it, but I think they made the comparison that like now instead of books we all collect games, so it's almost like this library that I can come select from whenever I wish.
Mhm,
Um, so and I also for a while I thought I liked the idea of like video game preservation. I've heard Pat the NES Punk use that phrase before. I'm like, yes, I'm just a I'm just a preserver of these games. I need to keep this alive for the next generation. Um, and while some of the next generation may care, like I would say Mega Dan 29's son, I think Dan's doing a good job of showing him, the classics. I don't know that my son will care. I mean, he does actually have a copy of Mario 3 in his room that he asked for. It's just the cart. He's got it sitting there on his dresser. Um, but I don't know. I don't know if too many generations much past this will care. I mean, maybe a handful of
mm.
people, but I don't know about great numbers.
Well, again, like, bringing it back, most of these younger generation kids are playing on the Switch, which now if you have the online, you can play the NES games on the Switch, so maybe a lot of them are gonna be experiencing these for the first time digitally, so they have no
Possibly.
attachment to these cartridges where, like, I could just play that on my Switch, it's digital, I don't need a copy of Mario 3 to play it, it's on my Switch.
Right, and somebody made a comment on your post the other day, and I was just kinda comparing it to, like, baseball cards. Like, I mean, I collected baseball cards in the '80s and maybe very early '90s, but, like, do I really have
Same.
any
Mhm.
nostalgia for baseball cards or, like, desire for them?
Mhm. Yeah, no, same thing with me.
Absolutely not, but people that were, like, in the '40s and '50s, I guess that's when they kinda came out, those really old ones. You know, that was kinda like the thing they wanted to collect. They wanted to get all the baseball cards they had as kids.
Right, right. And we kinda transitioned a little bit to other cards with, like, we've talked about X-Men cards before and,
Yeah.
Marvel cards and all that, and I still have mine from growing up, but I haven't bought any new, like, packs of cards anytime recently.
Yeah, in years. Um, and man, I was listening to Megadan 29. He does this, like, little car, like, talk on his channel, and he had seen your post, and it got him to bring it up, and he had so many good points, and I was like, "Alright, gotta remember that for the podcast, and now I can't remember any of them. So, Dan, I'm
Well,
sorry.
I will say maybe we can do a couple breaks, but a lot of people chimed in on this, so I kinda wanna jump onto the users and see what you guys are saying because it's certainly a hot topic
Yeah,
in
for sure.
being in the retro game community and you're like, okay, I'm going to sell off a lot of the games. What does that mean? Or why would you do that? So I'm kind
Yep.
of curious on what you
People
guys
say,
have to say. So
are they
What did
gonna
you say? What did you say?
Springfield, let's hear from you.
I jumped the gun on our sound effect.
I just said, "Are they gonna disown me?
So let's see. Well, I
You
think
call
face,
yourself an addict."
yeah, right, the NES addict, but you have no NES games. Let's see. We do have our Facebook page, the Weekly War Pipe. I think there was just 2 comments on that one. Let's see. We got Matthew Durkin says, as a kid, I'd always take my old systems and all the games I had over to my local Funkoland. Nice. And trade them all towards whatever the newest system was. Now that I started collecting the older stuff again, I have so many regrets on what I traded away for just a few extra dollars.
I bet.
I can't see myself selling it off again after all the time and effort I put into building and growing it. Who knows? Maybe 30 years from now, the games will make my room at the nursing home the hot place to be.
If we get put in the same place, Matthew, I'll come find you.
Nice. And then we got Richard King said, I've let's see, I have to had to sell my collection and start
I
over
have
from
had to. Yeah.
I have had to sell.
Words are hard.
Words are hard. Start over from scratch a few times due to moving and needing funds for that or unforeseen circumstances. First time I ever had to do this, I was about 8 or 9, and my parents were moving us down to Florida and had a yard sale to help pay for it and made me sell my games.
Oh, you terrible parents.
I was devastated. I probably would have be out here spending so much money hunting for my childhood if I still had all this stuff.
Oh,
Wow.
Richard.
That stinks that they made you like chip in to like help for the funding of
Y-
the move.
You know what? His name is Richard, but it's his parents who are the dicks.
Wow. I'll let
Hey,
it slide.
thanks. So, so that actually reminded me of something Dan had said. So that was
Okay.
good. That spawned my memory. Dan said, if and when he ever decides to sell his games, that's it. It's not, oh, I'm going to sell these to pay for this and then I'm going to recollect them because he already got them for the best price you'll ever get them the first time he bought it.
Right.
And the same goes for me. When I do decide what I decide to sell and when I decide to sell, which will be pretty soon, I would imagine, um, I'm not getting it again. So
Mhm.
I'm going to be very meticulous about what I keep because that's going to be it.
Right,
And
you don't wanna buy it back. You're not, like,
no,
taking a loan out it with your games
no,
to
no,
be
no,
like,
no.
"Okay, I'll sell all these, and then, 2 years, I could buy them back."
Yeah, no, that's not. It's these are going to go and these are going to go for good, and I'll keep what I keep, and that's it. And so I know for a fact I'm keeping the majority of my Super Nintendo collection. And the
Okay.
reason being is because um, I have my original Super Nintendo, I have my original Super Scope, I have like 15 or 20 games that I had when I was a kid, and I have my original boxes. So, and
Nice.
then, so then I mean, and then games like Super Metroid, definitely keeping that.
Mhm.
Super Castlevania, keeping that. Mario Kart, keeping that, you know. So I think my Super Nintendo collection will be the biggest. And then my NES collection, my idea for my NES collection right now is I have the Mario cabinet on the wheels with the little door,
Yes.
which I have my TV on. My goal is to keep that cabinet and then whatever NES games will fit in or on that cabinet as storage,
Mhm.
that will be what I keep.
Okay.
So I don't know. I'm thinking like 20 to 40, maybe 50 games max out of the
Mhm.
300 that I have.
Right.
So it's going to be all the games I had as a kid, Mario 1 and Duck Hunt, Batman, Skate or
Mhm.
Die, King of Kings. I'm going to count Ninja Turtles because I had it for like 2 days before I took it back to the store. And what was the other one? Oh, Mario 3. So those will be the first to stay. And then I'll add, several more, obviously, like a Mega Man 2, maybe. I already said Conjuring
You
Castlevania.
are you gonna do like a, like, do a list where it kinda gets points, but, like, like, "How often have I played this game? Is this game hard? Do I have any nostalgia for this game?"
Well, at one point I had told myself I would never get rid of a game that I had beaten. So that
Oh,
was gonna
okay.
be that was gonna be my initial criteria, but I'm not sure if
Right.
I stick with that
Because
because
then you might end up having too many
well,
saved.
I've beaten Battletoads, and like part of me is like I really want to keep this Battletoads card because I beat it, and like that's like a I feel like that was like a lifetime achievement.
Mhm.
Beating Battletoads is no joke. Um, but now I'm not so sure because I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever put the effort in to beat it again.
Right. You're like, maybe that chapter's done. I did it, put the time in, beat it. Now let's
Yeah,
get rid of the cart.
yeah. So one of the other reasons why I feel like I am going to sell my collection is, um, I just wonder what my kids think when they come in here and they see all this emphasis placed on material possessions. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like, oh, dad's got this whole closet full of old plastic and stuff. Like
Mhm.
I worry about like too much emphasis in our house on like material possessions sometimes.
Okay. Yeah.
S- So, and I'm leading by example by having all this stuff, just this huge collection. So, there's that. Um, One of the other things I had thought of, and these are just my many reasons, and you guys can take them and do as you will, and say what you want. And I'm not saying it's any one reason, but so I'm of Christian faith. So people that are not of Christian faith, this will be null and void to you. Um, but sometimes I walk in here and I'm like, this is almost like an altar. Like I've set up like an altar to Nintendo. You know what I mean? Like a
Wow.
company from Japan,
Yep.
like that cannot save my soul in any shape of the imagination.
Right. Right.
You know, and it's like, man, like so in Christian faith, you're taught to love Jesus with all your heart. And I'm like, I've never said anything like up this for like Jesus or God. So like, so do I love Nintendo more than
More
Jesus?
than
I don't
Jesus.
know. You know, and I'm not saying that's like the number one reason. I'm saying all these things I'm mentioning, like the material possessions, the fact that it could be used for money.
Mhm.
Um, I think they all kind of came together. I'm also 42 years old. Like, how much longer will I be playing I mean, hopefully I'll play a little bit forever is my hope. Like he said about playing in the nursing home.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always joke that I'll play Breath of the Wild in the nursing home because I'll have plenty
Yeah.
of free
Plenty of
time.
time. Cutting grass in Breath of the Wild.
That's it. I'll just be cutting grass all day long. Um, oh man, I had another reason. Oh, I'm sure it'll come back to me.
I'll
But
come back to you.
yeah, but I mean, I think just saving space, and then also
Mhm.
like if my collection is pared down, like sometimes I just come in here and I'm like, I don't know what to play. There's so many options.
True.
And like I would imagine most of us that have larger collections, probably unless you're Captain Algebra, don't or maybe Megadan, probably don't play a lot of them. Like I find myself playing the same games over and over. I'm always gonna pick Batman, and I'm always gonna pick Castlevania. I'm always gonna pick Jackal. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Like, do you do that?
Yeah. I usually go back to the same games. Essentially, I do. If people post stuff that I see, I'll try to make a mental note, like, "Oh, I never played that game."
Yeah.
And try to give it a try. But yeah, oftentimes it's just easier. Like when you don't know what to play, it's like just go back to a faithful
Yeah.
one that you enjoy.
I think okay, so I remembered another reason. So when I first got back to Nintendo, and I would say it was probably very early 2014, so like just a couple months after my daughter was born, when I was sitting around this house with nothing to do, and I started thinking about having never beaten Batman. Well, when I went to the store and I bought Excite Bike, Kung Fu, and
Hmm.
just regular Punch Out without Mike Tyson.
Okay.
And when I got home, oh, and I might have got like wrestling or something. When I got home and put those in, like the music just like took me back, like, oh my gosh, like I haven't heard Excite Bike. Down, 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 down. I hadn't heard that music in so long, it like blew my mind.
Right. Right.
Um, and like so for probably the first year or 2 years, maybe even three, nostalgia hit so hard with every purchase I made. I remember talking to JLove81 on the phone when I got the idea for Nintendo Oddities. And like, even though I didn't own some of these things like the shower head and the stickers and the phone, I just like, I don't know, like something about it just took me back to being a little kid, and it just brought so much enjoyment. And not that I don't think any of this stuff is still cool. I still do think it's cool. But the point is 8, 9 years ago, it was like seeing it again for the first time in 30 years. But now it's like I've seen it for the last like 9, almost 10 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's been in your game room or whatever, so it has no like wow factor anymore.
Now, maybe in 30 years, I'll be like, oh man, remember I had that game room? That was so crazy. Like, I want to see that stuff again.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, yeah.
but like right now, it's like when you're constantly surrounded by it, some of like the nostalgia starts to wear off.
Yeah, it starts to fade.
And then it's like, but you keep doing it. And do you keep collecting and hope that the nostalgia will rekindle eventually?
Right. Are you
Or,
lying to
or,
yourself?
or have you just gotten into a routine of doing it? And so you're still holding on to it? Um, Yeah, I don't know. There's this Death Cab for Cutie song, and I'm gonna quote it, but I think this song was intended more about things that you can't control in life. But I'm gonna give it a material possessions meaning. But it says, "I am learning to let go of everything I tried to hold too tight because they all explode like Roman candles." And sometimes I feel like I'm just trying to hold on to the past so hard. And I remember like Tyler from My Retro Life had sold his collection, and Tyler's collection is way more meaningful than mine because he collected every single bit of that with his father,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's all
you
on
know,
video too.
and it's all on video. So I feel like it would be harder for Tyler to do it with all that meaning
Right.
than it would be for me. Now I am keeping my Super NES stuff because my dad got me that, and because I still want to play it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I don't know. I feel like there's just like 1,000 reasons why right now, and I don't think that I'll regret it. Um, and it's also been kind of a trendy thing, which is not why I'm doing it. I promise. Because I think that would be stupid. Why would you sell your games because it's a trend? That seems dumb. But I know RGT85 recently sold everything to oh god, what's his name?
Oh, Caleb.
Caleb. Yeah. What's his Phoenix Resale? Um, and then I know that Iowa Retro Gamer Dad has been talking a lot about, selling games and stuff, selling collections. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a tough decision, but like I'll say there was some. I hope I'm saying this word right. It was kind of cathartic selling that NES Sharp TV, um, because I never thought I would be able to. Never thought I would want to.
I mean, that was the big hurdle, hump, or whatever. It's like, I guess you just rent right out the bag for the big. All right, if I could sell that, I could
I can
definitely part with these cartridges.
If I
And
can do that, I can do anything.
yeah,
And so yeah, just kind of bit the bullet at the beginning, and so we'll see. I don't know how hard it will be to sell all this stuff. Obviously, I'm sure people will be interested in buying it as a lot, but then I'll have to take a hit on price. So this may take months. This may take a year. This may take 2 years to sell. I have no idea. And then I'm also going to have to see, like compromise on some of my prices. For example, um, I got a boxed Virtual Boy for $10. Okay.
okay,
So pretty much anything I make off of it's profit, right?
right.
Um,
So if
I
you sell
pr-
it for 20, you already made you're
I
happy.
already doubled my money. So I priced it around about 450 with a handful of games, and the reason why is because I saw a comp on eBay that actually just sold,
Hmm.
and the going rate was 450, and then it was like about 40 or $50 shipping.
Okay,
So if I'm selling it local, I'm gonna not worry about the shipping and just say 450.
okay,
Well, a guy is interested in it, but he only wants to pay 350. Reason being is because one of the eyepieces doesn't work, and it's going to cost him about $100 to get that eyepiece fixed.
oh, I see. Okay,
If the
okay,
eyepiece worked perfectly, he might not care. Um, so at this point, it's like I only paid $10 for it. Should I just sell it for 350 to this dude who really wants it? You know what I mean? And like, or do I wait for who knows how long until someone gives me exactly what I want? You know what I mean?
right. I mean, certainly, so many different paths are going to be opening up and choices in doing this. It's like you said, okay, I could get it out the house done, and I'm short $100 what I could have made, but I'm already up. I only paid $10 for it.
But I'm already up $340.
Right. So it's like whatever.
Right.
Maybe another item will make more money essentially, and you'll balance out that way.
Yeah. So, like I know Andy's already expressed he wants my Mega Man 5, so I'm gonna hook him up with that. My buddy Philip wants my Final Fight cab. Because he actually went to Walmart the same day as I went, and they were
Mhm.
sold out by the time he got there. So I'm gonna hook him
Oof.
up with mine. Um, but yeah, it's a tough decision, and I hope nobody thinks that like this whole time that I've been like a poser. Of course it pauses now. Um, it says turn off the camera and reinstall the battery. What the heck?
All right, well, while you fart around with that, we're gonna read some comments from our Instagram
It
page.
sounds like a winner.
So you guys can follow us on Instagram. It's at the Weekly Warp Pipe, and we asked the same question. So we got a bunch of comments here. Game Junction said, "Sold off my collection the first time when I had 2 back surgeries. It helped fund a lot of that. Sold it off the second time shortly after my daughter was born." So again, you got to pay some bills that come up. Perfectly good way to get some quick money.
Absolutely.
We got Scruffy GIF. Michael Bennett says, "Sold my collection, pieces of my collection, so many times. It's not funny, but the biggest time I sold 80% of my collection, that's when I got married. I went from a 3-room collection to a small hallway shelf. After we bought our house, I started over, only to start collecting video games again 2 years ago." Nice. And then we got Retroholic 16. "I started collecting in 2011. And back then, it was easier because the hobby hadn't blown up like it has now, and getting deals was easier. Over the next 2 years, I collected a complete NTSC N64 cart only set with color variants. Was 34 away from SNES cart completion, NTC 80 away from the GameCube complete NTC. Um, and what else we got? Set and 9 away from a license. And yeah, wow, he's doing a whole bunch
Wow.
of shit
Dang,
worse than that.
Retroholics.
Near the end of 2013, I decided I didn't want to collect and sold it all to, I never heard of this company,
Hmm.
jjgames.com. Worst mistake ever. For several years, I had remorse and couldn't watch video game related stuff, etc. on YouTube. I started recollecting in 2019 and will never sell off my collection again. Wow, that's some
Wow.
story. That's a ups and down roller coaster for sure. For
Yeah, it
going
was.
almost full complete on those sets, being so close to completion,
Dude.
and then like, hey, I got to get rid of it. And now, especially when you were starting it, it was cheaper to get the stuff, and now
Yeah.
it's almost double, triple
Right.
on some stuff. Let's see what else we got. Gingerbeard, the gaming dad. Yep, I did, and have regretted it since due to pricing being so crazy now to replace what I had.
Yeah.
Again, yeah, it said get some of the games. I mean, I remember when I was working at the game store, a copy of Mario Duck Hunt was like under $5. It's probably like what, like a $10 game now.
Yeah.
Um, Ghetto Finger Gaming. Hell no. The seller's remorse will haunt you till your last beating.
S-
Jeez.
See, I don't know though. I think I'm ready to do it. I think it's almost like a growth thing for me. You know what I mean?
It's like the what was it, the 3 stages of
Yeah.
you got denial and remorse and
Maybe I'm still in
acceptance and
denial right now. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, I don't know, man. I just feel like it's a growth thing for me. And the other thing too is like it's not like my kids come in here and play games with me. It's just very like isolating, like
right, that does make a good point.
like my son and I went downstairs several weeks ago. We were playing Luigi's Mansion, and I was like, I'm glad I'm down here playing this game with my son, enjoying it with him, than up there in my room isolated, and he's not coming in there with me. So
Right.
the other thing too is, and this is a very minute, like, what if you're ever burnt down? Like,
Mhm.
you're
Yeah, if you
just
don't have
gonna
insurance
you're
or whatever.
gonna I think you have to have, like, specific collector's insurance.
Yeah, that could be a
Um,
whole nother episode for sure.
So I mean, like, I think I would just take a loss on all this stuff, you know? I mean, the chances of that happening are probably minuscule, you know, like getting attacked by a shark or something. But um, it's a possibility, you know. I'm just adding to the list of reasons. Like,
Right.
it's not just one thing that has led me down this path. You know what I mean?
We did have a caller this week, so
Woohoo!
I want to jump into the caller, and then we do have a bunch of comments on YouTube that we'll get to. But you guys can call us and leave us a voicemail. Our phone number is 949-682 warp. That's 949-682-9277. It's on all our websites and descriptions in the video. It's a 3-minute limit. Call in, leave a message, and it'll be a good time. So let's hear what they had to say.
I keep dreaming, dreaming about my dream phone.
It's for you.
Hey Jay, Russ, it's Michael Bennett, aka Scruffy Giffigan. I just had a challenge for you guys. I believe that the NES is actually the grandfather of the Wii and the 360, being that they're both very heavy in shovelware. I believe the NES has a lot of shovelware on only very few games. Most people don't see it because they have rose-colored glasses on. Change my mind if you guys dare. I look forward to that episode. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for
Dude.
calling in, Michael, dude.
Yeah. So I think actually it's the shovelware that I'm trying to get rid of now, Michael.
So that's a topic suggestion for sure.
Keep the classics.
Yeah, I mean, we could definitely dive into that. I could see what he's saying about shovelware. I mean, we certainly had a ton of shovelware on it. But like you said, rose-colored glasses when you're looking at Nintendo.
Yeah,
You
especially
definitely
the
have
NES.
your core titles, but there was times they were just pumping out crap stuff, and it's like maybe that's all the video games rental store had, so you're renting it and trying to enjoy it. So
Yeah.
then when you go back to look at it, you're like, did you really like pro wrestling? Or I don't know, tennis?
Did you really like?
Jay, pull a game off the shelf.
Did you really like Lunar Pool?
Oh my god.
I mean, maybe somebody out there did.
Maybe someone enjoyed Lunar Pool.
Did you really enjoy Mad Max?
Can't say I never played that one.
I paid $12.85 for that.
So yeah, that could be certainly a good topic to dive into. So we'll write that down, hit that with a future episode.
That's it.
And we'll see what you guys said on
Thanks for calling, by the way.
YouTube. Yes. Much
One of the
appreciated.
few.
One of the few. YouTube. Follow us on there. We're on the YouTubes. I post on the community page usually Tuesday morning of what our topic's going to be if you want to chime in and get your comment read on the podcast. We got 12 comments. We got longtime listener, Bilbo Baggin.
I love that name.
I stupidly sold everything I had back in college and took a break from collecting and gaming. Ever since I got back into it around late 2019, I have no intentions of selling. It would have to take some medical bills or other financial hardship to consider. Now, to answer the second part, I 100% would sell some stuff in order to buy a more rare item or grail that maybe will come up. Also, from time to time, it's good to trim the fat and keep the collection more about quality than quantity.
Yeah. Yep.
See, I could see myself selling a bunch of games and maybe
I mean, if
Shark
you want
TV.
if you wanna if you wanna think about it, like maybe that's what I'm doing. I'm just trimming a lot of fat. I got a skinny little cow with a lot of fat on it.
I mean, and you are who people maybe aren't visually watching or know, Jay, his game room is in a walk-in closet.
Yeah, it's in a closet.
So perhaps if he had a entire basement with more space, like it wouldn't look as cluttered or like you wouldn't want to get
And
rid
that's
of
the
it.
thing too. Like I almost don't want to show you this because I feel like a hoarder, but just like look at my floor. There's just crap everywhere. There's just every time I come in here, it's like it's just a terrible mess. And yeah, I think if I could get rid of some of this stuff, maybe that wouldn't be so bad. So
Fair enough. We got Corporal Donut.
I love that name.
I had like 13 systems, tons of games, and as I got older, I just kind of looked at the wall of games and said to myself, why? I knew it was time to sell them. You will know when it's time. I don't regret selling them at all. I play on emulation when I want to play now. I do, however, wish I would have kept like 10 games per console and kept the consoles as well, but it
Yeah.
doesn't bother me that they're gone.
Yeah, see, I think that's the route I'm taking. I think that's exactly what I'm doing. I mean, I will have a modded NES Classic, so,
Right.
you know, um,
You could always go back to
if
them
I
that
ever
way.
wanna play Monster Party, I can pop it in and play it.
We got Richard Mincy. Back in 2016, my grandmother got robbed at a bilo.
Oh,
So I
he's
did
down
what
south.
Okay, so I did what any grandson would do. I sold my game collection for around $650, took a CWP class. Now,
Mhm.
whenever my grandmother goes to the store, I go with her to keep her safe.
He's strapped.
It's one way to do it. Good for
Richard, where are
you.
you from? If you're a Bilo guy, I mean, I go to Bilo. Well, now it's Food Line, but you must be in the South somewhere.
Then we got Steve versus Man Cave Arcade in 2004. I like how they all these stories are like different time frames.
2004 was way back then.
I gave my N64 console and games to a family of 3 that were on the same school bus as me. They said they never owned any video game consoles and would love to have one. At that time, I had a GameCube and a PS2, so I figured I wouldn't be playing it as much. Though it felt good to help them out and give them a nice gift, I regretted it almost instantly. I had a great collection of games that I really missed. Fast forward to 2023, I bought most of the collection back and I own a mint condition secondhand N64. It all worked out in the end. Yeah, I could see maybe you could have asked him like, "Hey, do you want to borrow my N64 for a few months?" or
Yeah.
something like that. But I
Oh,
could see
well.
you being a kid and wanting to be like, "Hey, here you go, like just have it." And be
Yeah.
like, "Shoot, I really want
Well,
that."
especially if you have like a GameCube and a PS2, be like, it's exactly what happened to me. Why I sold my NES to get a Super Nintendo.
Right, right. Get that
I don't want
upgrade.
this ever again. That's how NES Addict was born. Regret.
We got Matthew Barros says back in 2010, my now ex-wife and I were expecting a baby. I sold my entire collection that I'd been building since I was a kid to have more money. I got $1,800 for the entire collection. That included some rare Saturn and Sega CD games and a complete in box Chrono Trigger.
Oh, that
Ooh.
hurts. That hurts.
Then around 2015, I started building it back up. It has gotten pretty large, like before, but I'm missing some of those grail items I used to have because the prices have become outrageous. I have bought some expensive items and I have vowed to never sell my collection again. We got Mike. He says, I did this stupid thing when I was a kid. Started by selling my Atari 2600 in games so I could get an NES games. Then I sold my NES games for Genesis.
Yep.
Did this right through every generation until I got my PS3. Then I had the nostalgia bug and been collecting for about 14 years to get back all those games and systems I love. I think I'll hold on to it now. Good old gamer aimer. I would never sell the collection.
Look at the response.
Let's see who responded. Why is it not showing up? Mine's not showing it. It says there's one. Was it you that replied?
It was me and I wrote, what idiot would do that?
Brandy has so much stuff. I couldn't even imagine selling
So
that much
I'm
stuff.
gonna be completely open and honest right now. Uh this sign is most likely going to be sold at some point. It is my hope and my prayer that it goes to Brandy.
So she's got dibs on that.
I I want Brandy to have it more than anybody, if I'm
Yeah.
being honest.
What about Retro Rick?
Nope.
He could put it in his game store.
I'd rather Brandy have it, if I'm being
Brandy,
honest.
you're gonna have it. And we got bad guy Mike says, I have over 450 NES games, and as of now, I don't consider selling. I'm hoping these games become more rare and valuable as the years go by, and then maybe in 20 or so years, sell them for a huge chunk of money. And Jay responded, I personally think as the core demographic, these games appeal to get older, the price will decrease. It would be like us finding value in old baseball cards that came out in the 40s and 50s. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just my hot take. And then we got a response that says, I hope you're right. In a way, that would mean that it might be possible to own a real copy of Little Samson at a reasonable price. Yeah, it's eventually if that retro bubble bursts and then everything starts coming down in price, then maybe instead of I don't even know what Little Samson is at now, $1,000 loose card game or more,
Who knows?
you can maybe get for $60.
That'd be dope. I'd probably buy it then.
That'd be the one game he buys back.
I don't know. We'll see. We shall see. But
Yeah,
yeah,
certainly tons of reasoning on why to sell a collection, and then of course you have lots of reasonings on why people would choose to keep it.
yeah,
Having that regret. I mean, it all comes down to an individual itself. What is the circumstance?
yep.
What are you hoping to get out of it?
I mean, at the end of the day, everybody, whoever has a collection, will have to leave it at some point, whether it's hardships or just death alone. I mean, we can't take the stuff when we go, so I figured might as well get rid of it now. Final thoughts.
Less my kids got to pack up and bring to Goodwill for someone else to purchase.
Yes, exactly.
So we'll see for all at the retirement homes with our clone consoles or with all the
Yeah.
games on it playing.
And obviously, I'll keep you guys in the loop on what happens. And anybody wants to buy anything, hit me up.
Yeah. So what is your current route for selling items? You're doing
Mostly like marketplace and
Facebook Marketplace?
offer up because I don't want to have to ship anything because I did Whatnot for a little while
Mhm.
and I got kind of burnt on Whatnot, and also I had one person say that a game I sent them didn't work. So I figure if I'm gonna do as much of it locally as I can, I almost thought about putting an ad out and just having like being like, "Hey, I'm having a mini game convention at my house. Come buy my collection." So
Set it all up in the garage essentially,
yeah,
and have people
my,
swing by.
and I think my plan is not to sell anything for like if like let's say price charting says this game is $25,
Okay.
maybe I'll sell it for 18 to 20, like so like maybe like a 70 to 80% like buyback because I think if I try to get 100% for everything, it's going to take forever.
Right. If you want that top dollar, it's like then again, here's all more questions like how long do you want this to take? How long do you want
Right.
to hold on to it?
But I also don't want to sell it all at once to somebody for 40%. You know what I mean?
Right. Like if someone that has a full game store, like Caleb that sells
Yeah.
games online a bunch, he's like, all right, I'll take everything you got for whatever, $5,000. And
Right.
you're like, I don't know. Maybe I would
Yeah.
rather make the 10 grand, but it take a year.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the route I'm going to take. Maybe like a 75 to 85%. So, if you want a copy of, I don't know, let's say Gargoyle's Quest cost $160 and you've been wanting it, maybe I'll sell it for 130 or something.
Okay.
You know what I mean? We'll
We'll
see.
see. We'll see where it goes. I mean, stay here. We'll keep you posted. If Jay posts anywhere else online, if he decides to maybe. I'm sure if you know Jay personally, you can reach out to him and say, "Hey, what do you got? Maybe I'm looking for thieves. You could get yourself a deal."
Yep.
So hit him up in the DMs.
Sorry. Slide into them DMs.
You can follow us on all our social media stuff. We got the weeklywarpipe.com. And again, we're on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube community page. You can find posts on there or watch us. Maybe you guys are listening on Spotify. We do have the video version on YouTube. And then we have our other show is also on Wednesday, Warp Pipe Wednesday. A little bit different format, a little off the cuff. You can get more Russ and Jay in your weekly routine.
Yeah. And who knows what this background will look like one day. We'll see.
We'll see. You can always take a picture now and we could green screen it.
Hey, it's not a terrible idea. Just won't have this fun sparkles.
That's true. Cool, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. As always, I'm Russ Lyman. Keep your world fun bit by bit.